Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Mysteries and Disappearances video. Well, those of you that follow my channel know that every now and then I like to mix in a video here within this playlist and then also take some suggestions. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but there was a recent article that I read that I definitely wanted to share here. It actually has to do with a current disappearance. Normally in my videos I focus on those the people that have disappeared like years back, like we're talking either early 1900s, maybe even in the 1800s and so on. In this case, though, this has to do with someone who unfortunately and mysteriously disappeared on March 8th this year, 2021, and there has been no trace associated from as to what happened to him. His car has been found, but otherwise nothing else in terms of him and his whereabouts, nothing along those lines, and there's so much mysterious stuff associated with it. The reason why this particular case interested me too is because it has to do with the Las Vegas area, specifically with this gentleman that disappeared being part of a rideshare program. So in other words, he was working for Uber at the time. So let's go ahead and let's focus on that here. This will give me an opportunity as well where if there's any updated news later on, hopefully good news, then I'll be able to share a follow-up video as well. But it has to do with this. It's the mysterious disappearance of John Schultz. So let me go ahead and I'll process and I'll explain the entire information here. John Schultz is a 60-year-old retired air traffic controller. You're looking at a picture of him now. As it turns out, even though he was retired, he was actually working part-time, specifically in the early mornings for Uber and then also Lyft. So this was someone that apparently his routine was 5 a.m. he would get up, he would leave his location there that he lived at Rhodes Ranch, Nevada, and then he would work just a couple of hours, part-time in other words, during that day for both Uber and Lyft, and that's again in the Las Vegas area. The reason why that hit home for me was because anytime I'm there in Las Vegas, I too use the rideshare programs. I use the Lyft program specifically, and so it's kind of like it's weird to have that link to realize that one day you could be having a rideshare with a rideshare driver and then all of a sudden that driver goes missing afterward. So it's definitely stood out when I was reading this information here. But yes, on that fateful day of March 8th, 2021, he left, but he never came back. And as it turns out, he was apparently someone that routinely called his wife, Barbara, to be able to, keep up with whatever's happening during the day. But there were no contacts that day, and then later on, of course, in that night, there was nothing in terms of him coming back. And then that's when she reached out to their daughter, Heather, who told them the information about what was happening. It was a frantic call as far as, there not being any touch in phone calls, anything like that in terms of John Schultz. And so even then, when they tried again, as far as future phone calls, it all went straight to voicemail. And then they even checked out a lot of the favorite spots, favorite areas around that town that John liked to frequent. They called anyone and everyone that they knew around those places, but no one had seen him. So they ended up filing a missing persons report there at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I think I know where that is because I've passed it by whenever I was heading south Las Vegas. I think it's in the south side of the strip. It's kind of weird. Like it's a building, but it's like a smaller building. I don't know. It could be that one, but it may just be a branch of the police department too. But yes, they filed a missing report, and then as it turns out, 4 days later, so that would have been, if he disappeared on March 8th, that would have been March 12th, there was a lead. Unfortunately, this lead, though, turned out to just be his car, which was a 2015 Toyota Prius. You're looking at a picture of it now. The license plate number, by the way, I'll share here because, again, this is an ongoing disappearance case. So having this information as far as the license plate number shared could help when it comes to that. But it's license plate number 75F-457. Again, 75F-457. But yes, this car was found actually all the way up at a road known as Wheeler Pass there in Spring Mountains. This is actually about 2 hours away from where he lives. And this Toyota Prius was found heavily stuck in the mud, as you can see from the picture there. It looks like it was heading nowhere fast. Like it must have been driving up that road. That road did not look like it was obviously a paved road. It was something more along the lines of a regular dirt type road, but with the snow causing it to be muddy, in other words, and it was heavily stuck in the mud. But this is pretty much a road that's only for all-terrain vehicles, and clearly the Toyota Prius is not something along those lines. And so when the police looked inside, they of course did not find him there. They did not find any whereabouts about where he went from that location. Apparently there was some of his items there that he has routinely within his car, but apparently other items were missing as well. I don't know exactly what those items were or how the details were. The police are naturally keeping some of this information sensitive because they want to make sure, since this is an ongoing case, that yes, that there's not too much sensitive info released to jeopardize the case in of itself. But that's the closest lead associated with this disappearance. It's finding John Schultz's car 2 hours away, apparently driving up a road that he would never really ever drive. The daughter was stating that no, he never takes this kind of risk. He pretty much knows, exactly the limits of the car, what it can drive, and yet here it was 2 hours away in this muddy road going on a area that eventually it got stuck, and then he just totally disappeared. Naturally, the inclination to think is if he was driving up this road just all by himself, then maybe when it got stuck, he decided to get out and then look for help. But as I've mentioned in some of my past videos, that turns out to be a fateful decision because so many of the other past videos that I've had showcase what happens afterward. People get hopelessly lost. They get stuck out there in the wilderness for days on end, and then they end up dying. I'm wondering if that's the case here. The family stating they're not ruling anything out. Like even the police, of course, are looking at all angles. It could be that, or it could be something more nefarious, something more insidious. Here you have something along the lines of maybe he was kidnapped, maybe he was taken someplace as a hostage and then told to drive up a certain area, and of course it got stuck, and then who knows what happened to him afterward. All of this again is an ongoing situation. The family is now offering a $10,000 reward for any information associated to John's whereabouts, and then if anyone has that info, as you'll see here, you can contact the police at this department, and then it showcases the various phone numbers, not only for Las Vegas Metro PD, but also for the missing persons detective. Again, I'm sharing all of this because it kind of hits close to home, being someone that goes to Las Vegas several times a year and uses the Lyft drivers there. Again, it's kind of freaky experiencing that. Like I talk to my Lyft drivers all the time. I talk to them. We talk about things, whatever is happening during that specific day. And then to realize that who knows, maybe later on they end up just disappearing from the face of the earth and no one knows exactly what happened to them. That's the kind of stuff that stands out for me. So that's why I wanted to share this too. And again, if there's any updated news, something hopeful, especially good news or maybe bad news that comes about afterward, then I'll showcase it here. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.